What happens when the people who are supposed to enforce the law start trying to silence citizens who are watching them? This week in Trinidad and Tobago, three major stories collide. A peaceful protest for a man killed by police, a minister trying to stop citizens from recording police officers carrying out their duties, and a judge stepping in to remind everybody, including the police officers and the ministers, what the Constitution already says. And when you start lining up all of this together, the picture that you get becomes a very uncomfortable one, because it's starting to look less like public safety and more like damage control. So let me break this down. On Sunday, a major protest was held in Port of Spain. This protest was spearheaded by two former classmates of the now paralyzed woman, the wife of the deceased Joshua Samaroo. Now, the protest was very peaceful. No violence, no cursing, no destruction, and definitely no threats to anyone in authority or anyone as a matter of fact. But yet still, the riot squad was deployed for God knows why. And this is where the story started to change. Because instead of panicking, instead of scattering unorganized, these two young women who organized this protest stood their ground and did so legally. When Mr. Brownclothes officer come trying to intimidate these young ladies, no adults but him. And when I say adults, these young ladies are adults, but no older heads but him. They allow them to literally, by law, rip these officers apart. Because instead of panicking, instead of getting vexed and cursing at the officers, like they would expect the citizens to do, these young ladies just spin the narrative. They started reciting the law to Mr. Brownclothes police officer, who was confusing himself. Apparently, he never had the law read to him, and he didn't know that somebody was capable, a citizen was capable of reciting the law by code to his face. And what she was doing was showing the officer in charge there that they were all operating under their legal constitutional rights. They weren't breaking any laws. When the officer realized that he had no push, when he realized that he had no leeway, he tried to spin the narrative again. He said, this is a disturbance, this is too much a noise. And this is one of the greatest moments in this little debate that the young lady and the officer had. She turned to the officer and she said, do you think that this noise is a disturbance? If this noise is a disturbance, why don't you go down to Panorama a couple blocks down and arrest everybody there then? They're making more noise than what's going on here. But because people standing up for the rights of citizens, this become disturbance, is noise, with no other alternative. Both the officers and the riot squad had to back down. They had no legal grounds to stand on. Because when educated citizens like these two young ladies decide to stand their ground and decide the constitutional right to stand their ground, that is what gets these officers so rattled. Because the officers themselves don't even know the law. Now let me talk about the bigger issue behind this whole thing, because why citizens trying to stand up for their rights, the Minister of Homeland Security trying to do everything to infringe on a citizen's right to protect themselves from the law. Now, everybody saw the video where he has publicly stated that he's trying to put laws in place to limit what the citizen can and can't do with regards to recording officers carrying out their duties. He wants to put a stop to that. Now, let us think here, at the exact same moment that we have one of the biggest cases of police misconduct going on in court right now, he wants to introduce measures to stop citizens from recording police officers carrying out their duty. When is the police under scrutiny, all of a sudden video evidence become a problem. Recording the police become a problem. A camera on your person and ensuring that the police themselves abide by the law is now a problem. There is not transparency. That worse than silence. It's better you had said nothing. Because this is the same TTPS that begging citizens to cooperate with them to help them solve crimes. This is the same TTPS that have a website dedicated for you to drop anonymous tips on crimes. This is the same TTPS that run an ad right now during carnival time. If you see a crime, report a crime, record a crime, come and talk to we and let we solve it. Help us help you. But all of a sudden, when there's a police officer committing the crime, the story change, the script flip. Now cameras become the problem. Now evidence become dangerous all of a sudden. Now accountability somehow destabilizing. Destabilizing what? There's no public safety. That's trying to control the narrative. And everybody could see through it. And this coming from Minister Alexander is the biggest piece of hypocrisy that I ever see in my years living in Trinidad. And trust me, when it comes to politics, you see a lot of hypocrisy, but this is the biggest blatant piece of hypocrisy I ever see. I could remember not too long ago, Minister Alexander was on a talk show on TV6 called Beyond the Tape. That is right after the time he and Ian Allen had a little follow for the police operation. Everybody know what I'm talking about, right? And during his tenure on Beyond the Tape, when he was a TV show star, every 5 seconds on every episode, he used to be like, let me get the accurate description. If you see a police misbehaving in public while in uniform, if you see a police officer not conducting themselves with the way that the TTPS deserves to be conducting themselves, it is your duty as a citizen to record that police officer and present that evidence to the Police Complaints Authority, where we will review that evidence and deal with that matter according to the law. Everybody could remember when you say that, dog. What changed? The badge come off and you get the minister title, so now accountability is a problem? What changed? Thankfully, we have people who hold in positions of power who still have the sense about them. Judge Frank C. Prasad came out and he made the public statement that certain things are constitutionally protected under law, and it is the rights of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to express their constitutional rights to record the police officers when they're misbehaving, to record the police officers while they're in active duty, to have a dash cam in the car, because we're going to talk about that one just now. So basically what Judge Frank C. Prasad come out and say is that the use of cellular devices to record police officers, the use of cameras to record police officers, the use of dash cam, CCTV footage, is your right as a citizen. Nobody can infringe on them rights, not even the law. The law is supposed to uphold your rights as a citizen. That is their duty, not to infringe on your rights. Because all these things that I listed here, dashcam, CCTV, you recording, it's not only protecting you as a citizen, it's also protecting the officers in case you as a citizen decide to lie. So then why would they not want that? Why? And let me be clear about one thing. This judge did not create these new rights. He simply reminded the public of the rights that they already have and tell them it's their constitutional right to express them. Just this morning, today is Wednesday, the day I'm recording this video, I went on Facebook to see some news. What's the first thing I see pop up? The Minister of Transport saying he need to put regulation in place to regulate the use of recording devices in cars. That sounds good, right? Because the first thing you're going to think is somebody driving and recording. Because I know everybody seeing the police videos that they're posting up with the TikTok Trinidad song, driving down the highway at 180 miles per hour, when he put in steering lane to lane. Everybody does see them videos. I don't know how the TTPS, the heads at TTPS will see them take. When you look at what he really saying, or what he's trying to put a stop to, he's saying recording devices attached to your windscreen. Most people recording devices attached to the windscreen is a camera, a dash cam. Let me just say you have a phone mount attached to your windscreen and you put your phone there and you put your phone to record while you're driving, that your phone acting as a dash cam. You're not holding your phone in your hand. You're not using your phone recording, your dash cam recording. Why does the Minister of Transport want to put regulations in place to stop that? Why? No, out at all times. No. When we're seeing how important video evidence is when it comes to police officers abusing the authority that they have. Why does you want to limit people's right to have a recording device in their car? Why? How that helping anybody except the police get away with misbehavior? How? Let me ask you a question, right? Minister of Transport, if you want to do this, don't start with the citizens, start with the police officers. Lead by example. These police officers going on wherever police operation they're going on, blasting Trinidad music, talking about gunman, go shoot up your so and so, right? Vulgar language, cursing, posting videos on TikTok of them driving with a cell phone in their hand, clocking 160, 180, taking up 2-3 lanes on the highway, blaring sirens, just blazing down. Let me start with them. And when you start with them and get them to stop doing that, then we go talk about getting the body cams operational. Punisher come out and say, the police officers and them know how to use the body camera, and they could start it when they want, they could stop it when they want, and they could delete things when they want. That is why it have freaking law. You're so dense as the freaking chief of police that you do not understand that's how our dash cam does work everywhere in the world. And everywhere in the world, police officers and police services have policies in place that if you don't have footage, if you delete your footage, if you didn't start recording, your word comes secondary to the citizen because you're trying to cover up something somewhere. If you wasn't trying to cover up something somewhere, it would have been on, it would have been recorded, and no footage would have been deleted or lost. Simple. So everything that you're saying there, you're talking stupidness. Don't take the citizens for idiots. You're making yourselves look like idiots instead. You don't realize that? Judge Sipasad come out and say that public trust in the police is under 10% right now. How are you fixing that? By trying to take people dash cam away? How are you fixing that? By trying to muzzle the citizens more? How are you fixing that? By not policing correctly? By killing people and picking them up and throwing them in the back of their van? Not waiting for forensics? Not following the law yourself? How are you doing that? How are you winning back more than 90% of public trust? How are you doing that? And not less than 10%? 100% of that is politically affiliated. They don't actually trust all you. They don't. They just have to say they trust all you because the people they like in power. Now, despite that rant I just went on, this is not about hating the police. I just fed up saying that. The public don't want to hate the police. This is about policing the police. Nobody don't do that. All they have all the authority and none of the responsibility, it seems. Because all they could get away with anything, and even all their higher-ups, the people who are supposed to be overseeing that all they do the correct thing, covering it for you. To an extent where the public could see the stupidity that's going on and all they're still lying and trying to pull a blanket over the public eye. So this is not about hating the police. This is about the police being properly policed themselves. So for the decriers who want to come and say, oh, the police is just doing the job. That is not their job. And they're not doing the job that they're supposed to do correctly. They're not. Because you can't build trust in the public by trying to silence them more than you already silenced them. You cannot demand respect from the public when you refuse accountability. If the system really works, let me see it on camera. Let us express our constitutional right to record your officers in duty. As a matter of fact, we don't even have to ask your permission. That is our constitutional right. Your entire police force, from the biggest, the middle, to the smallest link, supposed to be able to stand up to public scrutiny if it's working and the system not at fault. Because if the system not at fault, the camera is not the enemy. Now, closing up this one, I just want to say, to those two young ladies who spearhead that event, that was the most articulate response to police I have ever seen in my life. And I'm talking about in my life. The way that these two young ladies stood their ground, the way how they framed their argument, the way how calm and collective they were, the way how they used words to fight the battle instead of actions and cursing and gallivanting. You could see how incredibly intelligent, educated, and articulate these young ladies are. And I applaud them for not only their stance, but for the way that they carried about this whole thing. So if you enjoyed this one, don't forget once again, drop a like, leave a comment, tell me what part of this video really surprised you the most. Or just let me know what you think about these events that unfold this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. For those reviews, is Jeremy, and I'll see everybody in the next one. Later.